There we go. All right. Hey, y'all. Happy Friday for people that matters to. I mean, I guess happy Friday even if you don't have a 9-to-5 job. Like, happy going into the harder days of the weekend if you work in service, any service. So, shout out to y'all for making it happen for the people who work 9-to-5 jobs. But today we are talking about collaboration. I'm going to go get my collaborator and bring her in right now. So, get ready for this conversation. Bam!
Yay!
How are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to get this lighting situation happening here.
I feel this.
I like my big selfie light. I don't like these blinds behind. Oh, look, but I match my blinds.
But you are coordinated.
Yes, I am coordinated. All right.
So, yeah. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Why not? Let me not hit my mic here. Actually, I already did. Oh, hold on. Sorry, guys. There we go. I think I actually just hung it on my shirt and forgot to clip it.
Dork.
And then I'm like, why is it moving around? Okay, because it's not actually clipped. Anyways, so hello, everyone. I am Kristen Iris, a.k.a. the Taino Queen. I'm an artist, coach, speaker, and I specifically exclusively work with Black creatives. Creatives and clearing your shenanigans so that you can excel to your highest potential, your true potential. So
the truest of your true potential. Love that. I am Trinette, aka the Black Tina Marie. I do stuff. So like this show, like talk bullshit online. I do a lot of talking of the bullshit in a lot of places. All with the intent of all of us being better. So, here we are today to talk some bullshit, but true nuggets and pearls of wisdom about collaboration and collaborating with folks to make your dreams come true.
Yes, dreams come true.
So, I mean, I know what we're going to get into at some point.
It's like, where do we start?
Right. I guess, okay, I'll kick it off and talk about this, right? So this is like the latest iteration of something that I had been approached to do, then that didn't happen, and then wanted to take that and twist it a little bit and do something else, and then that didn't happen, and then I was like, okay, I gotta do this thing. And if it ends up being my thing that I'm reaching out to somebody to do, how do I want to do it? Because I have to. It is inside of me to do. I didn't necessarily want to do a solo show. Right. So, I didn't necessarily want to do a solo show. And I knew that podcasting previously was there was this barrier to doing it because, I got my shitty little netbook and putting things together. It's one thing to bootstrap something you do the very basic minimum that you can to get a website up. So instead of paying $120 for the annual, you pay $19.99 a month. It sucks, you'd save more money, but you're okay, this is feasible. I can come up with $20 a month for my website.
I can get started.
At least doing that. But podcasting, I already know I don't have the equipment that I want. And to really do the things that I would want to do with it would also require some learning. So now we're talking about the time expense in addition to the physical expense of buying a new laptop, microphones, all of the stuff that goes into it. And there are some ways to simplify it, but at this stage in my life, I'm a woman of a certain age and I'm just tired of having the fucking bootstrap every aspect of every creative endeavor I want to do.
Oh, God, I feel that.
So to take this, we got Facebook, you can connect to Facebook anywhere. People expect a certain quality, but everybody's gone live before, so we know what it looks like. So, it's not as stressful. And for me, considering my mental health and like just different things I'm working on to get this going was the most important thing. And to be able to collaborate with somebody and be like, I have to do this and you're doing it with me. I wasn't even like, oh, Kristen, you. I was like, so.
You did, actually. You were like, so if this person doesn't answer, you know that like you're up next. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been wanting to do a show with you for like at least 2 years.
So big, like, and here we are. So, you know, like that, I think, especially like in my 20s, because you're trying to decide the adult person you're gonna be in your 20s. That doing stuff alone makes you feel more adult. It makes you feel more accomplished. But now I'm like, it's more important for me to get the thing going and get the thing done than have some weird like notion of control. So I guess that's like, that has informed my kind of genesis and evolution about collaboration. Because I've always been a collaborative person. And the older you get and the more resources things require, even if it's just a time resource, like the older you get, your time resources completely shift because now you got to make money so that you can live somewhere and you can eat and you can also travel to these places. So I am so much more open to collaboration because literally that means at the very minimum, sharing the time resource and not having to be 100% on the hook by yourself. And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny because you said that you're a collaborative person, and in some ways I'm the opposite. Like I will reach out to help. I will reach out for help from people for different things, but I try to do things alone. And there are various reasons for that, but I didn't really realize this until it was about 1.5 years ago, a little less than that, when I was in Bali and I was at this workshop that was about leadership. And it was hella intense. It was 5 days, super emotional, like roller coaster ride of emotions. And somewhere in there, I think it was like day 5 or something, there was like these emotions coming up, and like I was feeling like, oh no, did I have a negative impact on people here in some way? Anyways, so the 2 coaches who were running it, they're like, don't isolate. I was like, huh? And they're like, don't go back to your room right now. Like, you're not allowed to go back to your room right now. And like, that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to go back to my room and order room service and just like lay down and be like, let me process everything. And they were like, no. They're like, no. You have to. And they even like got my roommate who like I had met that week, you know, they even got my roommate to like be accountable and not like, she was like, okay, so we're not going back to the room. So where do you want to go? Like, we have to go and be around some of these other people. And I really didn't want to, but I did. And that was where I was like, oh, I do isolate. And I started to see it in other ways. I'm like, oh, I'm isolating here. Or I isolate, I pull away from people. I pull away from working with people as well. Like even in my business, it's like, I know that I have to bootstrap things right now. Like I know, like I would love to hire an assistant. I would love to hire someone to help produce my podcast so that I could just record and be like, here's the file, go do things with it.
Yes.
You know, right? Go set up the promo. Here's like the image for the person, blah, 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 go do these things. And I would love to do that. And obviously I can't do that right now. I mean, not obvious to everybody else, but obvious to you. I can't do that right now. But It's like, sometimes I forget that that's something I need to be looking towards in the future. Mm-hmm. And even it's like, I still have this idea that like everything in my business is going to be like, I'm doing it myself. And that's not how I have to operate in the future. When I look back, I went to Columbia College Chicago, studied film, was there, actually film was my major until about 3 months before I graduated, and then I changed it and changed it to fiction. But I had been doing fiction, like I knew I was going to switch it. I had been doing fiction for like this whole second half of my college time. And part of that was because as I was doing film and doing some of the film projects, and they set it up where like they give you these certain courses, like these core courses that you have to take. And it's kind of like to weed out people who aren't like built for it. Well, I made it through, and that's not what weeded me out. It was the business of screenwriting class. I was like, I'm done. No, I'm done. But part of it was like, after going through the process, doing some of these projects, these film projects, I was like, I don't like working with people. I want to go work by myself because then I have control over the story. So let me go write books because I am in control of the story. And funny enough, here I am now at 33 whole entire years old, and I'm about to go to DC to work on this film project, you know? And so evolution,
comes
guys.
back around.
Growth. So, yeah, I'm like someone who isolates and like even changed my major, changed like my direction because I wanted to have like that, like you said, this weird notion of control. And now I'm in a place where like I'm really understanding how much it's not about the individual. And it's about, there is so much more power we have when we work together. And there's, in watching other people and collectives and communities, and even reading Michelle Obama's book, which I am not done with, and how she talks about how Barack was a community organizer and how she worked with certain organizations and got people like working together. There's so much beauty in that, and there's so much more that happens than you can do on your own. And it's changing the way that I want to move forward, not necessarily with my business in terms of coaching, but in terms of like pursuing film and film production and having my own film production company, and expanding that into more than just film, like music and other arts and things like that, centering Black and Brown and POC voices. The vision that I'm having for it is starting to evolve into more of like, well, what would this look like if it wasn't mine? That's hard. It's hard because it's mine. But what would it look like if it wasn't mine, if it was a collective of us with a common mission and a common mission of creating change through the arts? And so there is so much that opens up with that, but then it also has these fears of like, but it's mine and it'll be taken and turned into something else. And I haven't totally worked on that and deconstructed that yet, but I am at least in a place now where I'm really understanding how collaboration is so important. It's like, you never get anywhere on your own. Okay. You never get anywhere on your own. It's like martial arts training. I had people I was training with. I had people who were training me. I had coaches. Like, I got as good as I did. And I got to like the accomplishments that I did because of other people around me. Even people I don't even fuck with anymore that I don't even talk to anymore. And I'm like, that person is why I won the Golden Gloves or why I did this. Like, that person was part of it. And like, collaboration is just really, it's really powerful.
I'm sitting here thinking, because you just said that, like, you know, people were training you, and I'm like, even thinking about getting a mentor. Like, I basically went to get a co-collaborator. Like, I put them in an advisory role, obviously, but like, I think that also, because I'm deciding to be more teachable, and just be more malleable and more flexible in my mind. I'm open-minded as fuck. We all know that. But like, there are those hard lines that you draw, and you
it's mine
need to be able, right? Yeah. Like stubbornness, and just like, all right, like, stop being a monster. Just fucking figure out your ego. But like, you have to do that within safety, and not feeling safe enough, you kind of throw up these things. And also that's why that's something that gets in the way of having collaborators, is because you don't feel safe putting yourself out there for reasons that are completely just you and your brain and your own fear and your own resistance, but also things like in the larger world that would actually give you pause. So,
yes,
I mean, I picked the mentor that I did, one, because they had just posted something that was about mentorship, and I was able to slide in those DMs. But also, like, this is a person that I don't have to explain really fundamental things about why I see the world the way I see the world and why I operate that way. So it's a lot easier for me to be open to the guidance from this person and the wisdom of this person, because you don't feel like they're trying to change you because they're trying to put you into a box. And thinking about teachers and mentors and people like that as collaborators, just, I don't know, it'd probably be easier in your brain instead of people telling you what to do, because I have issues with authority.
Me too.
Not sorry at all. But like having that, think of somebody like, this is your co-creator of this version of yourself that you want to be. Not even just the thing that you're trying to accomplish, but like this person is collaborating with you to bring about the vision of this version of yourself that you are trying to be, that you are trying to step into. And I feel like that's a fundamental mind shift that like is starting to percolate under my scarf right now. Like, it's going to turn into a thing. I'm going to have to meditate on that in a minute. So, okay. So I have a question. So we got this thing where we're grasping for control, i.e. fiction writing, going into our hidey holes to write books. And then we have now seen the beauty in community. I guess kind of where's that easy to change and where's the tension of that? Like, where's the like, ooh moment versus like, this is beautiful, I love working with other people. Where do you feel that resistance start to creep up? When
I feel like, okay, so you talked about hard lines. So it's like when I have things, okay, so I'm writing this, I have 2 screenplay ideas right now. And one of them is like, there are certain things in it that I know how the business of screenwriting works. I know how they change things, but there are certain things in that script that I'm like, they can't change this. Like, she's gay. Okay, she's gay. You can't make her not gay because she's just gay, you know? Like, yeah. So, and this is not even a script that has like even been, I haven't even written it yet. I haven't, you know, I'm still writing the ideas for it and I'm thinking about it. And there's already like, this is how the industry works and this is what people look for. And they're going to want to change this. Like in my head, there's already this like story about what they're going to want to change because changing these things makes it more bankable. It makes it easier to present to an audience that will bring more people in, which brings in more money. So there's that balance between like, but I'm saying something here with this and like, but the investors want their money back.
Right.
And so there is certain things in like what I'm creating that I'm like, no, it's like this for a purpose. It can't change. And then the idea of bringing people in, it's like, are you going to get it? So I have this like, you know, that's where I end up getting the resistance where I'm like, but this is and I was like, oh, I'm just going to write a script and I want to submit it. And I want it to be something that's like, something that's not like my creative child, like some of my books are. And then as I was writing out the idea, I was like, crap, this is another child. Like I need like,
it's all like a
neighbor's child or something. Like someone that I'm like, no, it's cool. You can take them away, you know, like someone's dog that I pet sit, you know, and I'm like, here, I give it back, you know. It's something that I don't care so deeply about, but like, that's how I am with my art. You know, that's how I am with my writing and my stories, especially when I'm trying to say something with it. So I don't know, it's going to be interesting, but that's where I get resistance for me personally. I think there's a lot of other places where people get resistance. And I think all of that is kind of rooted in this idea that people aren't going to understand you and that they're not going to understand your experience. They're not going to understand your vision. They're not going to understand what you're trying to say. And for me, here we go. Now we're dissecting and diving in. For me, that translates to you're not seeing me, which is a deep underlying story that I have. When certain things come up, like imposter syndrome, that's what it's coming down to. I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, I know what this is. I know the story and how to navigate it. But that's kind of what it comes down to for me, is like, if you're not understanding my vision, then you're not understanding me, which is not actually true. Because they could be like, I understand what you're doing, but the investors want their money back. So we need something that's going to make their money back, you know? And that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with seeing me or not seeing me. It's just business.
I think, so that makes me think of two things. One, it makes me think of something Master P said on A Seat at the Table. And it was something about, if you don't understand my art, then you don't understand me. So I think there is 100% accuracy in that, because your art is you. Like, you're putting your thoughts out, things that you want to examine, your fears, your joys. Like, it's a culmination of who you are. And when somebody is just thinking of the bottom line, they're not seeing you, but not because you're not showing up or you're not interesting or whatever. It's because my job is to see the bottom line.
Yeah, like, it's because their job is about the money.
That's it.
Yeah. But sometimes there is an element of like, well, I don't get what you're doing with this. And it's like, don't you understand? And it's like, that could be the case. Or it could be like, I get what you're doing with this, but we're also looking at the money of it. And that's bringing the business in with the art, which is how film works.
Which is important. The other thing it made me think of is like having resistance around being seen. The more I just do what the fuck I want to, like, I'm interested in doing this. I see a need to do this thing. As the more I don't seek anybody's outside approval, the more I'm not, because even if you're not performing for people, you are, like, you're trying to say things in a way that they can be received. And a lot of that is not necessarily like, I'm really trying to get you to understand this thing. It's, I don't want you to hear me and think I'm being mean. So like, once you step outside of that, once I'm just like, I'm doing this because Trinette wants this. Like, this is going to be dope for me. Those voices and that like need to be seen, just like, they don't completely disappear. Sometimes they do if I'm like deep in a groove. But like, the more I start to I kind of let my purpose guide me and work into my purpose, the less I'm worried about what other people look like, which also makes it easier for me to collaborate or just seek help in general. Because it's like, I've decided to do this thing. I don't actually give a fuck about how you feel about it. But you have this resource. Like, you are a resource. So I can ask you for help. And it's not like, you don't need to know what I'm doing. It's just like, cool, I'm doing this thing, whatever. Hey, can you help me? And that person is going to say yes or no. And if they say no, it's like, I'm busy. It's never just like, no, I fucking hate what you're doing and I don't support it. It's usually like, can't do it now. I can do it later. But like, just letting go of kind of that fear of not being understood or having to qualify your things and ultimately find out that they're not good enough, I think is a lot of that kind of like fear of bringing other people onto a project or trying to even just get help for, if you are doing a solo thing, like bring anybody in any capacity.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot, like because of course, like, we're in this age where you have the internet, and being an independent creator is in your best interest in a lot of ways. Like, ultimately, you own your own shit, so you don't have to worry about it. You have creator control, so like nothing gets messed up in like the messaging and all of that stuff. But it's also a really good scapegoat to not have to have your things examined, to like not have to fully commit to something, because you're the only one who has eyes on it until you release it. Yeah. So you get to be very protective of it because it's never open to any kind of outside influence. Yeah. So I guess you get to not release it.
You get to hold on to it and hold on to it and hold on to it. Be like, I'm still working on it. And not actually put it out there, and it like protects you and keeps you safe. When you're collaborating with someone, it's like, bitch, are we gonna do this or not?
Yes, right.
Like someone else is relying on you, and that can also bring up fears about like, oh no, what if I'm not good enough?
Yeah.
Oh no, they're relying on me.
You have like a built-in accountability system when you collaborate with people. Like, you got to show. That's why people hate group projects. I've always loved group projects. I love group projects. But there is that thing where like maybe so-and-so doesn't get their shit in. So now, you know, a group of 4 is really a group of 3 and you got to carry whoever's weight. And now, you know, your grade, or if your project gets accepted by your team, now rests on you. And this person just gets to kind of come along for the ride, even though they didn't do shit.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that too.
But when they're passion projects, I feel like you're much more about getting it done than necessarily who gets the credit. I feel like that's kind of the after effect if people are worried like, oh, that was my idea, I didn't get the credit for it, blah, blah, blah. But when you're just trying to get your shit done, you're like, all right, I know I want to do a short film. I need cameras, I need actors, I need locations, I need lighting, I need all of these things. And so you just like go down that list. You're not like, and I need credit for this, and I need credit. You're just thinking about how to get the shit done. But after that is when all of
that's
those
kind of me right now. That's kind of me right now working on this film. It's like, because it's a smaller production. You know, it's an independent film. It's not like we've got Universal, you know, with like all of their people. And so we're each doing like multiple jobs. So I'm not sitting here like, I need to get credit for this and I need to get credit. I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm like, okay, how do I get these people's flights? How do I get like, you know, how do I get this set up? I need to talk to this department. I need to talk to the editing department. Like, that's what I'm thinking about, you know? And so, but that's the difference is like when it's a collaboration, because film is a collaboration. You cannot make a film on your own.
Right.
It takes hundreds of people,
a village,
you know, a whole entire village, sometimes from other villages, you know, and sometimes they take parts back to their village to get more help from their village.
Yes.
So when you're in a film, it's like there is, you know, there's the creative side that has like this vision and, you know, the writer had like this vision when they were writing it, and the director has a vision when they're putting it together and all of that. But like, it is multiple people's vision. And then the production team is making all of those different pieces happen. And so when you're in it, you're like, this is like, we are part of a team doing this. And that's where collaboration is really awesome, is when you're part of a team. It's challenging when you're still trying to like hold all the ownership to something, and not letting it breathe into the different like areas and with the different talents that it needs to with the other people that are involved.
Tight. Okay, so that transitions us into finding collaborators. Like, I'll say this for I'll speak for both of us and say that we got real lucky with the talent pool of our immediate friends. Like, it's a really weird group of very creative people that just happen to all go to the same school and then like remain friends, and then also pursue different avenues that we could still tap each other to be like, yo, like Kaiser, like I need costumes. Like I have, if for whatever I want to do, I know somebody who can make costumes. Like beautiful things, intricate things. I know if I need somebody to compose music, who I need to tap. If I need something illustrated, I know who to, like, I have so many things at my disposal. Our problem is that we get together and we talk too fucking much. But
yeah, or there's some flakiness too in there.
Oh,
so like,
I'm talking about when we do get together.
Like, we're great idea people, and then like sometimes we struggle on the execution. You know, as a group, as a collective group, we're like, oh, this and this and this, and then it comes to execution, and it's like, it's hard work.
And I'm
like, don't you want to just drink wine? Come on. Ooh, let's order a pizza. Like,
and talk about
like,
how
did
poor
you
we
see
are.
The Umbrella Academy? Let's watch it right now. Like,
but no, I have this idea from there, and then you watch the entire season. I mean, but in terms of finding collaborators and people like you can collaborate, like we are doing the show right now, like this is literally happening.
Yes. And And I think
But
when it comes to finding collaborators is being really clear about what you can and can't do. Like when we started this, I told you, I was like, look, I can show up and I can talk. I'm like, right now, I can't do stuff for the Patreon. Right now, I can't take the audio and cut it for an actual podcast. Like, I can definitely show up though, and I can like help to promote it. Like, I was clear about what I could do because I didn't want you to feel like, yo, you're not pulling your weight. Like, we talked about this. I'm like, let's talk about it. Let's be clear about where we each stand. And like, after this film, I'd love to be able to step into a bigger role with it and be able to do more. But like coming up to it and us starting, especially like in pre-production, I was like, this is what I can do. I can show up every Friday at this time.
That's about all I can do, to be honest. Like it's a weird thing where it's like, yeah, got all these ideas. Once again, big ideas. And then it's just like, fuck, I'm moving.
Yeah. Oh my God. You did. We did start this right when you were in the middle of a cross-country move.
And like, not only like I was here when we started, like was I here when we started or was I there? I can't even remember. I was either.
You were there.
Here.
Wait.
Yeah. So I was here. Yeah. I was here when we started. Then I was in the apartment. And then I was at Wellington. So it was just
it's funny because you started that first day. It was like you were there and I was in your apartment. And then the next week you were in your apartment and I was over here. Like just bouncing around in different places. So yeah, you know, you were in the middle, you were there and then you came back and then you were like at Wellington's and then you were there again.
But that's the thing. It's like, that's also an important thing about the people you collaborate. Like being honest is 100% is a requirement. Like,
yes.
In
what
general,
do you need and what can you do?
And what can
those
you do?
Two things. What do I need? I need someone who can do this. If you can't do that, it's like, cool. That's cool. Maybe we're not a good fit. Or, okay, maybe we can finagle it. And this is what I can do. If that's not going to work for you, cool. You can search for someone who's a better fit.
And like, no hard feelings. Like, and it's also the thing, you have to be honest with yourself. Because I could say, oh, no, that's fine. But it's not really fine. And I'm not even necessarily trying to lie. It could be as we get going, I'm like, you know what?
You're like, really this not was a bad idea. Like, I was not ready for all this. Yeah.
But I think it's much more important to know thyself, because I know I need somebody flexible because life comes at you so fast. And like, my life is not completely set up. Like, we're going to be moving in July is our target date. So it's like, even now, once I get into a groove, like, I'm looking for work and like, what does that look like? Everything is so transitioning. I don't know a word, but transitioning, but you know what I mean. Right now that like everything is in flux. And so if all that we can do is show up every Friday and hit live, I'm happy.
Me too. I'm good with it. I'm good with it. I was like really glad when we actually like launched it. I was like, I know that I can really only manage to show up on Fridays. I'm like, I'm gonna be there every Friday that I'm not on set. I will be there.
And like and also like kind of in this beginning stages where we don't have so many eyes on us, it can be much more flexible than us kind of like getting a group. So it's like a huge pro that we can kind of figure this out between the two of us right now. Like you being on set and like, I had to find people to host or co-host with me during that time. It's fine. And maybe like there's a week where it's just like, you know what? I just started working a new job. If like I don't have to record this week, that's also tight. It gives me a full week to like get my shit together. Like, cool. But like ultimately it's about making sure that the number one objective is reached. And the number one objective is that the show happens. Like that it is that it's out going. That it is going.
Yeah, and that like, it's not this thing that it continues to be like a not executed thing. It's like, it's executed. It's out there. It happened.
Because honestly, I also needed that personally in my life. Like, I needed a W that, like...
Yeah.
Like, literally just having the show and being able to, like, oh, I gotta go record my show. Like, it's kind of tight. Like, oh, I gotta go record my show because I got a show because I decided I wanted one and I made it happen, bitch. Yes.
Yes.
In pursuit of Black excellence. It's not obtaining it. You're in pursuit.
In pursuit. Always in pursuit.
Always.
We are always in pursuit. Yes.
But yeah, I think also finding collaborators is when you get clarity on what it is you're trying to do. Like, you're not trying to make a movie. You're trying to tell a story. You're trying to tell a story of what you want, what to be highlighted. You want to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because you can make a movie about anything.
Right.
Okay, the Backstreet Boys made a terrible movie about zombies. Like, it was just...
I forgot about that.
Girl, I actually watched it. I was like, I can never get this time back.
Can't. Why do you hate yourself so much?
I can never get this time back. I think I was watching it with someone, and I was like, are we really doing this? Like, you're really gonna make me do this? It was bad. I tried to get my mom to watch it. She's like, we like had a switcheroo somewhere in there where I was like, no, it's terrible. Don't watch it. And she was like, oh my God, this sounds so awful. I have to watch it. And then I kept going, and she goes, never mind, I don't want to watch it. I go, no, now you have to watch it. Now you have to watch it. So you can make a movie about anything, but it's like, what are you really doing? Like, what is your message? What are you trying to accomplish with this? And that core, like, that becomes the core around which everything else is spinning and which everyone else works. And they all have to be centered around this core mission.
Yeah.
Like, everybody can't come into it with their different motivation. You can have a side motivation. I'm trying to break into the industry. Like, I'm trying to build my acting career. But, like, you have to be about the story.
Yes.
For example, if we're using film as the example, because that one was what was brought up. But, yeah, it's like you have to be about, like, whatever the mission is. If you're working in a collective to create, like, the breathing room, which I actually don't know anybody who runs the breathing room, the Let Us Breathe collective. But like, that space as a collective is my understanding. It is run as a collective by a collective of people. And they understand the common mission is to create this space that is as safe as possible for, people of color to come and bring this collaboration between art and politics and education. So like, there is that common mission, and they come to that collective as we are working towards this common mission for these people.
Yeah.
And that creates that foundation.
That's a great example, because we've both been to that space. And like, when you walk through the door, there are rules to like navigate the space. Like, you agree not to call the police, because for people of color, particularly Black and brown bodies, like, you could be calling our executioners to the space.
Yeah, so and they're abolitionists, so
also
that's
so
one of
it's
the things
very
that they value.
That people who come to that space, like, it's not like going to a club and there's like a dress code posted outside, like, oh no, I got flip-flops, I guess I can't come in. Like, these are really like fundamental core value things that as a collective you have to agree on.
Yes.
And for people coming into that space, like, either you vibe with it or you don't. You understand it, or maybe that's not the space for you. But them being united in that mission, because that's something that you have to collaborate on the rules. How do we run this space?
How do we reinforce this?
Yeah.
How do we do conflict resolution if we're not calling the police? What are the alternatives? Like, they have to think about all of that.
And you have to have a lot of trust in the people that you invite into that space, that they will also be respectful. Not that you can't butt heads or there's not going to be a problem, but like, that you are essentially inviting them in and they are coming at the same level as you, kind of like co-collaborators into that space.
Yes.
I'm so clever. I'm so good at this, y'all. But yeah.
And there's an element there, and I'm thinking about that space in particular of like, which I think is something that's really important for Black people in particular, is like this deep, like, honoring of our humanity. Mm-hmm. And so I feel the feeling I get, I can't speak from it because I'm not one of the collaborators or part of the collective running it, but the feeling that I get from them is this: we are here to honor and acknowledge and validate and preserve all of our humanity. And there's this incredible beauty and operating from a place of like our inherent humanity and dignity and preserving that, especially for a group of people who constantly have that invalidated and dismissed, and we're constantly dehumanized by society. And so in a place like that, especially against the grain of the way we get treated by society, that is a really powerful element. And so when you have like a really powerful something at the core, it's something that can like hold up. And even as things have to change, you have to make adjustments. Okay, this thing over here isn't working anymore. We can't, this way that we're operating isn't sustainable. You're still coming back to this core mission of like, okay, well, what can we do? What shifts can we make that are still always from this place of this thing, or from understanding everyone's humanity and acknowledging everyone's humanity, or whatever it is that your mission or your purpose is.
Okay, so let's transition that into like, I'll say what makes you, not you, Kristen, editorial you. What makes you a good collaborator? So I'm thinking about when we're collaborating with people and we're looking for collaborators, what remains for me is going back to being flexible. Like, that is a non-starter. If you are rigid and inflexible.
This is why I agree with you, because I'm like, let's just read the fuck out of teenager and early 20s Kristen here.
Tell the truth, shame the devil.
Because I was inflexible. I was like, you have to do it this way. I was very rigid. Like as like a leader, as a collaborator, it's like you have to let people do their thing. Yeah. You have to let people come in with their gifts, and that there's an element of trust to that. But there's also an element of like, I don't have to control everything. Like, here, you can handle this. Like bring it back to me. And sometimes people disappoint you, and you're like, so you're not even trying. you just completely forgot about that. And sometimes there's an element of like, oh, they're learning, and you have to be willing to work with that. But really, it's about letting people come to it with what they have to bring. Yes,
I think so. Two things from that. One is your expectations of people are not necessarily their job if you have not clearly communicated that. I find a lot of times that people have expectations based on how they would do things or how they like things to be done that they do not communicate to other people. And then, one, take it personally, which is so ridiculous. And two, penalize the other person for not showing up in a way that you never told them or expected them to. When you have an idea, if you have a project, you have something that you want to accomplish, of course and I am a literal daydreamer. I will lay in bed in the day and just dream and like fantasize about things and visualize them.
I do that
so
too.
you can't see into my head. I can't be like, bam, how come you didn't blah, 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 because you didn't see the vision I had in my head. Thank God, because that's fucking weird. But when people, especially because it's like you said, like, it's your baby, you're very protective of it, you want it to happen, it's important to you, you wouldn't pursue if it wasn't important to you. You have to be mindful that the thing that you're giving birth to has to be community oriented. It can't just be my project. If you are bringing somebody in, it becomes ours. And so now everybody's expectations must be discussed. And like, if there are milestones y'all need to reach, that needs to be discussed. They need to be decided upon. If there are rules and operations that need to be decided upon, they need to all be done together. And like, of course there is going to be headbutting, or not of course, sometimes like everybody's just on board and that's fucking dope. But like, you can't also take that for granted. Like, sometimes you have to beat, it's not a dead horse. It just seems like you're like, no, I just 100% want this to run as smoothly as possible. I want everybody to feel like they are being heard and being acknowledged. But if you're too busy being like, but it's my baby, like, you don't really leave space for anybody else, like you said, to do their thing. If my gift is to show up day of, great. you can't be mad that I didn't show up 2 months ago. Like, if that's not what I have to offer, that's not what I have to offer. You get to decide if day of help. Like, I'm thinking about like wedding planners, but like sometimes just if you have an event, you know somebody who would be great to MC. I got lots of ideas and all types of other shit that would be funny that you want to put into a thing. But maybe for what I'm doing, you just need me to be the MC and be funny for that day. Mm-hmm. That's how I work best as a collaborator for this particular project. And then there's some other things where it's like, you need some long haul people. But what is expected to be there in the long haul? Like, what does that look like for every individual person?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And can we bring that together in a common vision?
Yes.
You know. So let's talk some of the fears and I don't want to say challenges, but kind of
I like
fears, or I would say cautionary tales.
Yes, things to be aware
tales. Of. Yeah, when it can, and okay, so let's just talk about J-Lo. Let's just talk about
Yo, J-Lo been out here bad since like 97.
You guys, I'm reading this thread, like, did she sing anything? Did she write anything? So
J-Lo
I got this
stealing music
for 21 years. Okay. The length of time could be a person who can now drink. Okay. So I got this link from my sister this morning about all of the music. It was a Twitter thread, all the music that Jennifer Lopez stole over the years, and either stole their vocals, stole their actual like lyrics, didn't give them writing credits, just all kinds of like, did she sing anything? Like, can the bitch sing at all? Like, I don't know. I'm not convinced. So reading that, I was like, we got to talk about this, because there is sometimes stealing, and what happened in some of those situations was like straight up stole. And some of the situations was like, oh, we'd like you to write this song. And then they write it and they sing it and they're like, we're just going to take your vocals. And so there's an element of like, I don't want people to steal my stuff, or an element of there's only one seat at the table. And because the table is white lead and white bread. And so there's only one seat at the table, and I got to knock these other bitches down so I can take it. It's not helpful to any of us. And that's also not true. We are changing things. So I think that some of the things that are really challenging or to be aware of or cautionary tales are the very things that make people not want to collaborate. Like, if you see what Jennifer Lopez did, or, you know, I said something to my boyfriend this morning about it, and I was like, you know, she stole from Brandy. He goes, well, everybody stole from Brandy. He's like, that's why she stopped making music, because everybody's still with her. So she was like, well, fuck you guys.
I didn't know that.
I was like, oh, I didn't know. I'm like, oh, now I feel bad. Now I feel bad for you, Brandy.
Never was so good.
Yeah. So it's like, you're afraid of people stealing your stuff, stealing your idea. There are people who are like, oh, I don't want to put this on my blog. Like, I don't want to write this article because what if someone steals it? And I'm like, someone might steal it, but that person who's stealing it is still going to be 2 steps behind you every time. Like, even if they copy all your shit, and it sucks. But part of the reason that people do this is either like they're trying to survive. They're trying to like grab what they can and take what they can to survive. Probably because they don't believe in themselves, and because they feel like there's only one seat at the table. So there's this sabotage. So on our end, and I say our as in people, let's say, who don't do that, who, you know, who are trying to collaborate, or
non-thieving ass bitches.
Yes, us who are not that, there's this element of like, okay, but I don't want that to happen to me. You know, I don't want this to happen to me. I can see what was going on over there. And this distrust in particular within our own community. And that's by design. That is the bigger structures at work that are designed to make us not trust each other. And so the more we actually see each other's talents, see each other's strengths, see each other's skills, and say, hey, I've got this vision. Do you want to be part of this vision with me? Because I think you can bring these things in. I think I can bring these things in. Or I see that you're doing this and I'd love to be a part of it. This is what I bring to the table. You know, is this something that could be helpful for you? Is there something that I could learn that would be helpful? The more that we do that, the more we're coming to it from this common vision place that we were talking about earlier. And it can reduce some of that anxiety around, is something going to get stolen, this or that, because you guys are coming to it from that vision, instead of just like, oh, I want your skills. Like, I want to use you in this way.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's the distinction is, are you looking for someone to collaborate with or someone to use? Because those fears of collaboration, like you think, because especially if you take like an example, like somebody in Hollywood, the stakes are higher. We're talking about millions of dollars. We're talking about a career that could launch you to international global fame. So
Jennifer Lopez.
So that entire industry is rife with that stuff, just because there is so much at stake that people are willing to throw you under the bus every day at any moment. And not that we don't experience that in our personal lives, but like the degree in which people are willing to do the bad thing to get what you have or to use you to get what they want there's nothing that compares to that industry. I feel like that fear of, if somebody steals from me, is also an excuse to not do the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I have an idea that I talked to a few of my bar friends about, and like, even in talking to them, the advice that was given, because, you know, shout out to friendship that is very much about how do we get this thing done versus like, oh, well, have you considered all of these other negative things? I'm like, have you met me? Of course I've considered the negative.
Yeah, I'd be like, of course I thought about that. That's the first thing I thought about. You know how long it took me to get to the point of, how can I do this? Forever.
Yeah.
I've had this idea since before I was born.
If I want to hear about how I can't accomplish something, I'll just talk to like the people I know who are going to be those people. Like, it's fine. I'm not avoiding you. I just have an idea right now. It is in its inception. Like, let it breathe, let it bloom, let it grow. But having this idea, my friend Holly was just like, talk to people you trust about this, like a small number of people you trust in the industry about this, blah, blah, blah. And like, even in being obviously a person I trust in the industry about this, was still very much like, keep it tight. Like,
yeah,
not even people who are your friends, they're your friends. And so there's something to gain from taking from you, which is fucked up. And we're all at this age now that like, you've either experienced that or you've been near someone who's experienced that. So like, you understand that it's not about thinking poorly of people. It's more like, this is something that legitimately could happen. So I just have to approach it like it's something that could legitimately happen. What?
Yeah. So it's not a personal story of this, but like, and it's not exactly collaboration. It was sort of like a mentor situation. So about 1.5 years ago, I was working with a coach very briefly because I couldn't continue, I couldn't continue paying for the program. So I was working with her for like a month and a half. And she had just started working with another coach, and I started following the other coach through her. So I was working with her for like a month and a half, really liked what I gained in that time. Things that like I still kind of use. And like within the last 2 months, she came out with this program that when you look side by side between that program and her coach's program, it's like the same thing. It's like something about like sensual marketing or whatever. And I was like, oh, because her coach posted something where she was like, oh, people over here acting like they're original and they're just over here stealing my shit. And she's like, you guys have no idea how many people are out there just taking my stuff and using it. You have no idea how many people you see out there who've got this great idea that I had first and that I put out first. And she like linked it. And I was like, oh no, I know who that is. And I still follow her. And I gave her a testimonial. And like, when you looked at it, I'm like, it was like it was something about like sexy marketing or sensual marketing or something like that. And like that was the original coach's program. And then her program was like, it was something very, very similar, like your sensual branding or something like that. And I'm like, that's bad.
I think what really bothers me about that is like that thing I showed you where there's a Black woman here in Chicago. Look at where my head's at. There's a Black woman in Chicago who was putting on Brown Skin Lady. That's the name of her program. Highlighting, you know, Black artists and all of this stuff. Is this beautiful art, like very excited. And then, you know, somebody in New York saw it, and instead of reaching out to her and being like, yo, I'm really inspired by what you're doing in Chicago. Is there a way that we could collaborate and I can do this here in New York? It's like, let me take what you did, change a few elements, shake it up a little bit, put a different little package on it, and just like run with it. And it's like, I understand that like if you're really inspired by somebody, the last thing you want to hear is no, you can't do the thing that I'm doing. Because then if you decide to proceed with something that looks similar, then they're going to be like, oh, this person stole from me. But like, that's just kind of the risk you take. Like, you cannot just take somebody's thing. Like, I would much rather somebody approach me on some collaboration shit, or even been like, would you like to be my mentor? Because the mentor I picked is a person who talks about racial disparities in this industry. That is my whole thing. So it's like, instead of being like, well, let me just follow this person and let me take this thing and let me cherry pick and put something together. I'm like, yo, you're doing the thing I want to do. Please help me. Because ultimately we're two different people.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would love to collaborate with you also down the line. Like, I would much rather collaborate with you and like tell you what my thing is, and you help me get my thing going, and I help you with your thing. And we ultimately build up this community of Black bartenders, than me just feeling really gross about stealing from people. But I guess people who steal don't necessarily feel gross about it. I just feel fucking gross.
The thing is, people who steal may not feel gross about it, but probably on some level feel gross about themselves. So the reason you could be like, hey, sure, I want you to be my mentor, I want to learn from you because we're different people, is because you understand you're different people. You have a solid grounding in who you are. And you have like, even as you're like, hey, I need to learn more things, you still believe in yourself and what you're doing and what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
A lot of these people who steal things, it's because they don't really believe in themselves. And there's this idea of like, if I collaborate, I don't look as good. I look like I'm less. I look like I'm not as smart, or like I'm not as talented because I'm collaborating instead of showing up and doing it myself. So, you know, I'm just gonna, oh, I was inspired by this. Oh, I was truly inspired by this. And look what I have created. And it's like, girl, that's not inspiration. I don't think you
plagiarism.
I don't think that word means what you think it means. Like, yeah, you know, and so and some people will really convince themselves, oh no, I was just inspired by it. No, bitch, you stole it, is what you did.
You stole it.
You stole it. And that is like this lack of belief in yourself and your own skills, all at the same time, while trying to fool the people out there, because really you're just trying to fool yourself.
And what kills me about that is because it's not like, even in my authenticity, that I'm not dealing with like hella imposter syndrome or whatever, but it's like this thing inside of me that I am trying to get out into the world, that I see has a place in the world, is much more important than any of that other bullshit. Because I know academically at least that is bullshit, and I would much rather get my thing out in front of the people who need it than the alternative. So anyway, that's some of the pitfalls or some of the fears that people have with collaboration. Because there's also another industry story about like, oh, let's work together, and then all of a sudden you see these two people who are working together, but then you start to see one person more than the other. And at first you're just like, oh, you know, if you're trying to show up at different, like, there are industry events all the time. So you would either have no job or no money if you showed up at every industry event, if you're trying to push like apparel or anything like that. But then you start to see one person and like, oh, now this other person has their own thing. And you're like, I thought y'all were working together. And then you eventually get the tea and it's like, oh,
y'all
one
split.
person. Y'all split because collaboration wasn't working because one person had other ideas, we'll say. But like, if you're going to collaborate with somebody, like there are legitimate things to look out for, but you get a gut feeling about somebody. Like and I think it goes back to this thing that I always talk about Issa Rae. I will post that clip because I recently found it again. When she's talking about collaborating with people who are on your level, like everybody wants to collaborate up because you want that prestige to be conferred. That's you using that person. You don't want to collaborate. You want to use their shine. You want to be famous by association. You want credibility by association. You want whatever that they have to offer. You want access to their followers. You want access to their network. But if I'm collaborating with people who are on my level, then it's really about doing the thing. Because it's not, like my ego's not at stake. You're not doing better than me. I'm not reaching above. We're just really trying to do this thing. And we're trying to get us both out here. Like, we're trying to make sure that all of us are eating. We're trying to make sure that our integrity is intact because we're putting our names on this thing. And I feel like if you're afraid to collaborate with people, you really need to think about your own personal reasons for reaching out to who you're reaching out to. Not even just reaching out in general, but if I'm reaching out to somebody who's more prominent, who's known, why am I reaching out to that person? Is that person the only one who can help me? No, probably not. There's probably somebody who's much closer and much more hungry because they're not at that place yet that I need to be working with.
Yeah.
So
and I mean, and it's okay to work up. Yeah. And it's okay to work up as well. But like, you know, even coming to people and being like, hey, I could really use some help with this. But separate from that, on the subject of going lateral, there are people who are on different levels for different things. You know, so you might have somebody who's got like, you're like, hey, I want to work with you because they've got like a bigger audience, but like you've got a more established and better produced podcast or something, you know, and maybe there's a way that you guys can like work with each other in a way where you are both benefiting from what you might be lacking, what they, you know, and what they have and what they might be lacking that you have. So there's different ways of looking at it, but there's collaboration, there's mentorship, and honestly, like, it's okay to also just be like, hey, I need help with this. Like, I need help. Would you be willing to help me or teach me this thing? Like, is there something I can do for you in return? Like, what, you know, these are my skills or something like that. It's okay to just ask for help, you know, but you don't have to like try to fake the funk. Be like, oh yeah, I'm doing blah, 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 and I want to bring you on. It's like, you don't have to present yourself as something you are not. Just be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm looking at. This is what my vision, but this is maybe where I'm struggling. And I think you might have a strength there that would really amplify this.
Fake it till you make it is for interviews. Just playing. I'm not playing.
You're not playing. You're not playing and you're not wrong.
I'm not playing and I'm not wrong.
You're not playing and you're not wrong.
Yeah, like that's one of those things where it's like it gets back to just being honest. Like I could sit there and I could have tried to like do a soft shoe about what my skill set was and how far along I am. No, I was just like, because honestly, I'm also going to get more out of this situation if I am honest. Because if I'm presenting like I know this thing or I've already acquired these things, then I am shortchanging myself because this person could help in the actual acquisition of these things that you are trying to pretend like you already have. No, thank you.
Yes, exactly.
That's silly. I don't know. I'm not foolish like that. Anyway, all right. So ultimately, we feel very strongly pro collaboration. Clearly.
Yes. Pro collaboration.
Pro collab. Do you have anybody off the top of your mind, like any group of collaborators who you really like the way that they vibe together?
Because Let Us Breathe Collective, which I mentioned earlier. I don't even know who any of the people are who are running it, but I
know Christiana and Damon because they're brother and sister are there. But yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been there in 6 months. I haven't been there since like right after my birthday.
I haven't been there in a minute.
Yeah. So the way they work together, groups of collaborators, Crystal and Kid Fury.
Dude, I got Missy and Timbaland, so
like
I just
Loudspeaker Network, all of Loudspeaker Network. Crystal, Kid Fury, Wheezy and Mandy. I was listening to Horrible Decisions this morning. Jade and Kia. Jade and XD.
Jade and XD.
Lena Waithe and Anyone.
Right? Issa Rae and Anyone.
I was going to say Issa Rae and Anyone. Janelle Monáe and Anyone.
I think, honestly, those, like, if we take Issa and we take Janelle Monáe and Lena Waithe, like, specifically as good examples of, like, you 100% can tell that they are excellent at collaboration. Yeah. Because they've done so much of it that if they were just bad at using people, it would have 100% come out by now. But just look at their genesis and like where they are now. Like there's so much, let's do this thing. That's just like obvious and apparent in the transition of their careers.
Yes. Everybody's like in their lane and like, this is my lane and this is what I bring. And how do we make it? How do we make it work? How do we, and that is, it's beautiful, and it is like where I'm headed even more, but I am so glad that I am at least at this place compared to like early 20s Kristen. And I'm just like, cool. So let's find ways of bringing this together.
Yes, let's make it happen, Captain. All right. Well, do you have a one thing for this week?
I do. It's a short one. So my one thing is dream big, and then keep that vision in your mind, and then dream bigger. Like let your vision evolve, because when we start to dream big and we start to get out of just like, okay, I'm trying to survive, or I'm trying to get by, and really thinking about what it is that you want to do, that idea is not necessarily even as big as what you really want it to be. It's like, it's still kind of restricted by your own internalized ideas of what you can do and what you can't do, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, what your potential actually is. And so as you keep staying in that vision, allow it to evolve, allow it to get bigger, allow it to expand, because you will start thinking of new things that are like, oh, I can go this way with it. I can do this. I can turn into this. And that's all a good thing. It doesn't, you don't necessarily have to reach all of that, but allowing yourself to think bigger and think bigger and think bigger is going to allow you to take yourself to the next level and the next level, and to expand the way you do things, and how much of your potential you really step into, and you actually start to like realize and acknowledge and bring into the world, which also amplifies the impact that you can have in whatever way it is that you want to have impact.
Heard. I was talking to my mom earlier today, and she said something about how she's, going to sit down and talk to my stepdad about the thing. Like, she's 52 years old and she's ready to just be doing the things that she wants to do. Like, she has a job right now, but that's not her career. Like, even as a real estate agent, she turned down a client because she was like, I don't want to be finding people homes right now. I want to be rehabbing and flipping. Like, that's what she wants to do. And so she's come to the point where she's like, that's the thing. Like, I need to be more intentional about working toward that, because otherwise I just been kind of doing these things. And it's really fun to have that conversation with your mother, like, about her being like, I got this little funky ass job or whatever, but I need to be working on my dreams and what I really want out of life. And I'm like, go off, Mom. Like, yeah, do you, girl. So I support. My mom also support, even though she don't know. She supports.
All right.
Stamp of approval. I was gonna do an angry one thing because some shit went down. But you know what? I talk about that all the time, and I'll probably be talking about it later. I've talked about it earlier today. So I am going to piggyback off of yours and say, start small. We just show up every Friday.
Yep.
Like, we show up every Friday. Whatever other promotion happens, the Patreon will get up eventually.
At some point.
Get real good and clear on your why. Because when you have the anxiety about all of the shit that you're not doing around like the show, I could just be really stressed out because, you know, I'm super good at it. About all the things that I'm not doing to promote the show or drive the show forward, I get down to my why because the anxiety and the overwhelm are useless. They don't help me promote the show. Like, guilt is a really useless emotion for me. It has kept me back from more things. Shame has kept me back from doing things. It's never helped me do anything. So getting clear on my why is that I need to be speaking. I need to be sharing. I know that it's important to talk about things kind of under the umbrella of Black excellence, the way we talk about it, because there are so many things and so many people talk about imposter syndrome, but like not necessarily at the intersection of race and gender. There are so many things about talking about collaboration that like they are very particular to who you are and where your resources are. So start small because of your situation that may be personal, maybe the choices you made, because we love that. It might be the choices you made. It might be where you live that you don't have access to the same things and people that other people do. So you can't internalize that. You can't make that a personality flaw. Just start minimum viable product. That is a business term. Just go with the smallest thing you can to get it on the market. Do the smallest thing you can to start working on your dream. If that means getting a logo together by yourself in Canva, do that. If that's all you can do for this whole month is get your little logo together. If it means securing your domain name, woo, speaking is hard. Do that. Even if you don't build a website for the next 6 months, do that. That is one thing that you've done. That's a tangible thing you've done toward your goal. So start small.
Yes. And real quick, I'm going to piggyback off of that because you mentioned people don't talk about imposter syndrome at the intersection of race and gender, which is exactly what my most recent episode of my podcast was. Melanated Rising. Guys, check out episode 13. Just came out on Wednesday. I go deep into imposter syndrome, in particular, where certain historical, social, and cultural elements have played into us, for us in particular as Black people, our imposter syndrome and what it's really rooted in. So check that out, especially if you are starting something or moving into something. Like she just said, starting small. That episode is definitely going to help you navigate some of the thoughts that you might be having, some of the behaviors and habits that you don't realize are actually part of imposter syndrome that are sabotaging you, and really starting to recognize and have a deeper understanding. So just going to do that shameless plug, really shameless plug.
Yeah, because that was not set up at all. That was like the sickest alley-oop of all time because I didn't realize I was setting up an alley-oop. So go off. But yes, where can the people find you?
You can find there. Yes, you can find me at kristeniris.com. You can find me on Instagram at kristeniris. You could find me on Twitter, but why? Because I'm not really there. Not really active. And you can find me on my podcast, Melanated Rising, on iTunes and Spotify, or patreon.com/Melanated Rising to see all the episodes.
Tight.
I think that's it.
You can catch me on IG, Instagram, at Black_Tina, TEENA_Marie, Black Tina Marie. Also, the show is at Pursue Black Excellence on the Instagram. On the Facebook, it's at In Pursuit of Black Excellence. So if you want to like and share the page, we would like that, and please do. If you also want to like, comment, share the video, we would also appreciate you for doing that as well. So, all right, kids, it's been a blast. I gotta go.
Yeah, me
got
too.
Stuff to do.
Yeah. I had
just
to
out
go
here pursuing Black
find housing for leads and all kinds of shenanigans. Budget. I got to go budget some stuff.
I got to see if
pre-production is so fun. I love it.
All right. We'll talk to you later, kids. Bye.